Hey gents, this is Wax from the 72nd VFW, and I'm making this video to show all of you guys how to set up Falcon BMS in the windowed mode and basically remove any chance of you ever having an ALT+TAB crash ever again, and more importantly, how to load alternate flight plans into the 3D from what you planned in the UI. So, these two are interconnected. You have to be able to ALT+TAB in order to load a different flight plan into the UI. So we'll go ahead and start with setting up your Windows mode, or windowed mode. First off, you're going to open up your launcher, and bear with me, my mouse is a little bit messed up, and I need to get a new one, so it might double click a couple times. No worries. But then you go to configuration, and you'll open up the Falcon BMS config deal here, and you're going to check the hardware box, open that up, external displays, and make sure that cockpit displays to external windows is checked, and external windows always on top is unchecked. If you have external windows always on top checked, it'll basically prevent you from bringing anything in the background above Falcon, because basically instead of having Falcon draw itself in a full screen mode where it takes control of everything, it just draws all that information over top of the desktop. So you're basically still always in the desktop environment. You're just allowing yourself to go back and forth. So when you ALT+TAB, you're just bringing things on top of Falcon. Once you've done that, you hit apply changes. If there were any changes applied, this little message window will pop up and it would tell you what changes you made. You're going to exit that and go over here. Next, you're going to check cockpit display extraction, and it's going to open up that window, and you're going to look at main. This is the important part. The other ones are also all basically just whether Falcon's going to extract other bits of your cockpit to the desktop environment. But you're going to make sure that this borders checkbox is unchecked, because then it'll look like a regular Windows. It'll basically just look like Falcon inside of this window when you'll be able to move it around your desktop, and it will kind of ruin your simulation experience. So make sure that's unchecked. And then you're going to set these two numbers here. This is basically telling it where the origin point to start drawing from is. For me, basically it is this screen number 1 that you see here in the background, and then screen number 2 is and 3 are where all my instruments are displayed on. So for me, 0, 0 is the origin point, which is basically all the way up here in the upper left corner, because everything is drawn right and down. If your setup was in such a way that maybe your primary screen was screen number 2, then you would want to set that as appropriately. However you have it set up, I'm sure you'll know where those things go and what looks best. After that, you hit save and close. And you'll launch Falcon. Now, when it's set in Windows mode, it's going to look like this. You're in a little 1024 by 768 UI screen, like this, and then all of this desktop real estate over here that you can use to your advantage. Now, in order to make sure that Falcon looks correct when it goes into 3D, you're going to go to the setup page, graphics, and then make sure that the resolution is the maximum resolution of the screen that you're just being displayed on. Whatever you have, whatever your settings are. For me, I'm displaying it on a 1080p television, so it's set at 1920 by 1080, and that will then basically fill the entire screen real estate when you go to the UI, and then hit apply and OK. And then you're pretty much set up to go in windowed mode, and you're able to use everything. The biggest benefits for here is that you can interact with the desktop and have things displayed in this extra real screen, like TeamSpeak, for example. I usually have TeamSpeak up here and IVC down here, so I can make sure IVC is going to the right place and whatnot, and then I can drag and drop people around in TeamSpeak, however, and still interact with the UI until we commit. Okay, so that's covered. Now we're going to talk about Weapons Delivery Planner. Weapons Delivery Planner is a really awesome some really awesome planning software, and we're going to open up here. It's only designed for Falcon BMS, and it lets you do all kinds of cool, neato stuff with Falcon itself. Now, the important thing to make sure you have your settings set up correctly, and you have your settings. If your Falcon location is correct to where it is, wherever it is installed to, and that's important just to make sure you save something, and that your callsign.ini file is the correct callsign.ini file. Whatever it is right here, circwax.ini is what I use, what I have. So that's me. Whatever is in your user config logbook is going to be where it saves that information, and that is where it gets drawn from into the 3D. We'll talk about that in a second. As long as that's set up right now, you would be good to go. So we're going to go ahead and open up a mission really fast. I have a little mission right here. We'll open up this TAC mission. It's going to commit me because my mouse is crazy. Stop it. Alright, so what you can see in here is what was currently saved in the mission.ini file and in that .tac folder. So when you're loading in the UI, the information for the flight plan information is loaded into the .tac file, and that is what you displayed on the UI here, those white lines. And then all of your pre-plan threat and lines are drawn out of the mission.ini. So in this case, the mission.ini file would be stuff.ini, and that would be in your data campaign saves folder. So whatever's in there is what gets drawn to the UI and what you load it and whatnot. And then normally what you would do is you'd plan your flight, move your flight plan around or what have you, and then you would save your DTC. And then you would then commit to the 3D environment. And then you would see your flight plan here and your pre-plan threats here. We're going to go ahead and delete all these pre-plan threats. And we're going to commit to the 3D environment. Then you'll see here, we're going to go to this page, taxiway, whatever you got to do. And then you'll see what it looks like when you load it. Boom! Completely covers the screen and looks just fine. Alright, so we're in the 3D environment here, and we're going to ALT+TAB back out. Never have to worry about this again, because you can now interact with the desktop environment and still have things working in the 3D environment. For example, if we look back over here, let me just recenter myself. Look back over here, we can see my tail, and I'll make some inputs. You can see my tail move. Can't quite see the ailerons moving from this angle, but you can basically fly the aircraft from the desktop environment. You don't have to worry about it suddenly crashing on you. Alright, so we're going to talk about WDP again. So the normal way that you do things in WDP is you open up a mission, and we'll use this mission here. And then you would select your flight, select your package, select your flight, and it'll ask you this question: do you want to pull your information from DTC or from the mission file? You want to click no, because you want it to draw all that information from the .tac file or .cam file and the .ini file, and not from your callsign.ini. Because if you hit yes for steer point data on the DTC, that will pull from what's in the callsign.ini file, and that will be what you see here. Whatever you planned in the UI, whatever you saved in that DTC folder, that when you hit save DTC, that's what so this is what it will populate it with. We don't want to do that, so we're going to click no. And this message will pop up, just basically saying you don't have an FMAP, so there's no weather data to populate it with. So when you do that, it's going to open up the flight for what you want, where you're going, and it's going to populate it in everything in here. You'll see some steer point information, lines, pre-planned threats. Now, what it's showing right here is your current information that's in your callsign.ini file. So you can see no lines, Patriot, and this stuff. So you see the Patriot here, the SA2, and this flight plan here. And whenever you click, the important thing to remember here is that when you're saving your DTC to load it in here, load it into the 3D environment, that the correct logbook for what you're flying is where it gets saved to. Otherwise, it won't draw that information. You won't be able to load that. You won't be loading the correct DTC. You'll just be saving it somewhere, and then it'll just continue to load whatever you say. And remember, this mission file is where it draws information for the UI specifically. So this, once you're in 3D, this file means absolutely nothing to you. So you never have to worry. You don't have to worry about it again. Only what populates in the UI. This is the important one here, the callsign.ini file. So we've gone over that really fast. When you're about to load your DTC information, you got to make sure that this box has been selected and is grayed out. That is saying that the information you want to pull from, or you want to load into the DTC, is from that file. So we have a Patriot, an SA2. It's also what, if you were to select mission, it's what gets drawn on this map here, and that's the easiest way to verify that you have the correct information drawn. Is by checking and make sure these are grayed out, because you can see as you hit these different ones, information gets drawn in there. There's a line in this one. There's no line in this one. There's a Patriot in this one. There's two SA6 and a custom PPT that we've made ourselves, which we'll talk about later. So we've checked that, made sure that information is correct, and we'll hit any one of these Save DTC buttons. I'll use the one on the map right now. Hit that. You get a message saying that your logbook that circwax.ini saved, or whatever your callsign.ini file was saved, and the two files. It basically saved you a file for your callsign.ini and for your mission.ini file. You hit OK, and you'll come in here, and you will load your DTC. And then you'll see that your pre-planned threats moved and that you created your mission here. Now, it's important to note that when you do this, steer point number 1 is pretty much always going to be your takeoff point, whatever airport you took off from. So that one can't really be changed. So you can't just say, oh, I want to load it from Season but be taking off out of Kunsan. So just whenever you're planning your flights, make sure that they are planned from the airspace that you're taking off out of. Otherwise, it'll look like this, because you can see how it changed in the UI or on the HSD to look like our flight plan here, but as if we took off out of Kunsan, and it'll end over at Season. Alrighty then. So that takes care of that. There's one more important note. Once you've loaded a pre-planned threat or a line into the 3D environment, you can't delete it from your jet. So we have two pre-planned threats here. I can change those to be whatever I want. I can move them around. I can make them to SA2s. I can make them SA6s. Whatever you want. I can add lines. I can have them snake around the HSD all day. I can move my steer points around and whatnot. But I can't get rid of them off the HSD, because basically once Falcon is running, it basically treats it as a null information. So if I were to go in here and delete my pre-planned threats like that, and then hit Save DTC, it would be as if this line here was receiving no information. So when I go ahead and load it, no change, because it's basically saying you didn't. There's no changes of the information, so I don't have to draw it differently. Now, if I were to say change this to let's draw some stuff on the map here. Make a pre-planned threat for an SA4. And make a pre-planned threat for a Patriot over there. And hit save DTC. And then load it. You'll see that they moved. Patriots. There's a Patriot and an SA4 on my screen. You just got to remember that you cannot change the current pre-planned threats that are already being loaded into the DTC, but you can move them around and change what they are. So just bear that in mind. Same goes for lines. You can't delete them, but you can move them. So we've talked about that. We'll go over the second method of doing it. For that, just to kind of show my point, you don't actually have to have a data card. Because when you open up the TAC file, it reads all the information and generates a data card for you. So that will, it creates this little guy right here and all this information and just draws it out for you. Don't have to have that at all. All you really need is your callsign.ini file. So we're going to go in and we're going to open get a little wonky. We're going to open WP again. Alright, so no data card. You go to your DTC and get callsign.ini. Now you don't have to get it from the user config folder. You can get it from anywhere. So this is where it comes in handy, just to create your own flight plans, and then put them up, and then open them up. So we got Cowboy 1, Viper.ini. Now, once you do that, you can look over here and make sure these are all grayed out. You have lines. We have pre-planned threats. You have two SA2s. We can look at our map, verify that the information that you want looks like how you want it to look. This one's planned out of Kunsan, so you'll actually see it change directly from Kunsan. And then after open up your new flight plan that you want, you have to go and save callsign.ini and save it to the logbook you're using. And that'll change over here. And then you can make sure this is grayed out, that the call sign box is grayed. Hit save DTC. It'll give you the message. And remember, there's nothing in the mission file, so it didn't save a mission file. It just saved a call sign file. And then you can load your DTC. Wham! Look at that. You changed everything. Yeah, you can see those two SA2s, the flight plan change, and we have a line drawn over here in the corner. And that's the second method there. Now, the third method is really only for precision targets, lines, and pre-planned threats. And that would be to load them from a backup file. So I could go in here and hit, targets.tgt, a .tgt file, and I could load it that way. And then that would load precision targets, load lines. We'll just go in here. Oh well, I don't have any lines files really saved for you, but you could just go in there, load up a lines file, or a pre-planned threat file, and it would populate in here. And then as long as you have this one checked here and you have proper information here to your correct callsign.ini file, you saved it and hit save DTC, it would load it in the UI. Remember, that doesn't mean you can change your steer points that way. You can't do anything like that, just change your steer points. Only way to change your steer points from WDP is to have the actual lat long coordinates and elevations you want them at. And that really only allows you to change this information here. The lat longs, your elevations, or altitudes you want to go to at each steer point, and what you wanted to do with those steer points. And that will only really change it in your briefing page and tell what the AI what to do at that different steer point. So, not super great, but if you were to give, all you were given was a list of lat longs, you could plug them in there. And that would change it on the map. Because you can't plan from this map, you can't move your steer points around. You can put in pre-planned threats and lines. So that pretty much covers the 3 ways that you could theoretically get information, flight plan information from Falcon, or from WDP into Falcon, and that wasn't planned in the UI. You could also plan, we'll go back to the UI really fast. You could plan a whole flight in the UI hit save DTC, and then you can pull that information out and look at it. See right there, whatever's been saved into your callsign.ini file from or basically is in the UI presently, will get drawn into WDP, and then you could drag it from there and get it into the 3D however you wanted. So you can change all your stuff and then save it that way. And then the easy way to save that current information, that current flight information, is to save callsign.ini. And you just go there, name it whatever the heck you want. And then you could open it up. And you'd look at it, and it would look the same. And we'll make some changes so you can see that it is different. We'll say it's whatever the heck that is. You can see it's those 2 things. And then we'll go back and open up circwax.ini, and you'll see that it's changed back to a Patriot. So that's one easy way to get it there. Another sort of way of doing it is if you were to, and this only applies to if you open up a file itself. When you open up a mission the proper way, you can save your data cards. And if you saved it, it will give you a long spiel of messages saying this is what it generated when you hit that button. And it creates a mission.ini file. Now if you were to open that one up, we'll just go in and we'll just go ahead and close WDP again. And we'll just open that file. Let's say we'll say get callsign.ini. See, it saved all of that information. Sure. Okay, so it basically saves you your whole flight plan in that INI file. I stand corrected. It saves all that information. It saves your steer points, your lines, pre-planned threats, everything in there. That's basically your whole flight plan right there by opening that up. Then if you want to be able to plug that into Falcon, you save Save it to the logbook you're using. And then you would go in here, commit, and load it into the jet. Just remember that steer point 1 is always going to be where you take off from, so that can never be changed. Even if you change it in here, it won't display it absolutely correctly like the way you planned it. So you have to make sure that you have to plan the flight. You have to frag the flight from the airport that you want to take off from in the flight plan that you're loading from WDP. So if it's out of Stason and WDP, you gotta frag a flight out of WDP. It doesn't matter what steer points you put into that flight you flagged though. You just frag a flight from there at the takeoff time you want it to be at, and then you just load your flight in there normally. Okay, so we're going to talk about the PPT, the pre-planned threats. So this is the nifty part about Weapons Innovative Planner that really benefits you. You can plan your lines and your pre-planned threats from the map page here. You just right-click and you hit PPT, and you draw a PPT. And you just go down there, and we'll use my custom Kunsan one. And now it says that there's that number 58, pre-planned threat 58 is KSN for Kunsan. And that can be used to increase your situational awareness on the HSD. So if you have a whole bunch of unused pre-planned threats that aren't being used to delineate actual threats like surface-to-air systems or air bases, you can use those on air bases to give you your situational awareness on where they are. You can draw them and saying, hey, if you're flying, say, over Seoul right here, and your mission is up here in North Korea, and you're coming back, you can put pre-planned threats that just say, give you some heads-up information on those things. Like you could say whatever the ICAO identifier for Seoul is, or just say SOL, or whatever you want to use. Just remember, it's under DTC PPT management. When you want to create a new one, you come over here to New, click New, and it creates this little blank space right here. Then you write in a name. You can only use 16 characters, but if you want more, you can go into the actual ppt.ini file, which is saved wherever it says Browse PPT. You just select where it is. And if you want to change it for a different theater, you just select it for a different theater. Data, one of your add-on ones. We're just going to stay in KTO for now. And you find the ppt.ini file. And then you'll just click Save ppt.ini file, and whatever is right here will get loaded into there. And that's how it uses it to find information to display on the HSD. And you'll just name it here, and that will just be whatever it gets named on the map. And that's the range. This range is the range circle you want it to look like. These are all 0, so it just writes this 3-digit information. This is the 3-digit identifier on the HSD. And then the rest of it can be whatever size system you have. So you can see CSAR range, Nikes, whatever the range of that system is. So for me, I just like putting down airports. You have Kunsan here. I could draw however many other ones I want. But it just remember that 3-digit code, HSD code, is what's going to be displayed in the pit. And if you want to save that information, you can save that ppt.ini, and you could just distribute that ini file, or you can back it up just like you can your pre-planned threats, lines, and precision targets by saying save, and it creates a PPI file, and then you can distribute that way. And it's just a quick way to give people more situational awareness on the battlefield, because you can use these different maps to draw out your different information and use it. And there's of course the nice benefit of, if you have tankers, it draws in tanker tracks for you and stuff like that. So very useful, great tool, and now you know how to load your a flight plan into the 3D from wherever you want without having to actually distribute a whole new mission file. So hopefully that was useful, and have a nice day.